Welcome to Shone's Thoughts After Hours. I kind of get the feeling that although that I'm not in a campfire or by a rushing whitewater rapid river, that I'm not out in the forest. I'm in a sense still on an off-road journey. Off-road being when we're on the road, we have the consistencies of what norms are. You know, the reliable home where you have some sort of bed, whatever that bed is. And yeah, I guess in a sense I have been on an off-road journey, an off-grid journey, as I had added some of my podcasts to. And I thought recently, because I was no longer in bear country, that these audios didn't necessarily need to reflect that off-grid living. Because in a sense, being off-grid is simply, for me at least, the idea of you're not fully conforming or you're beginning to conform. Like there's varying levels of being off-grid, sir, perhaps. And so I kind of realized that not only is this an after hours, because it's at night, it's dusk, the sun's going down, and in a sense I'm in a different kind of wilderness, the urban wilderness. And actually right now I'm joined by some beautiful lightning and rain in the sky and this worker truck sitting in front of us. And I'm outside here walking around with lightning in the sky and thinking to myself, oh, finally the Weather Channel got it right. Because today I was sitting in front of the TV and the TV was talking something to do about lightning. I heard it in the background that there were going to be lower temperatures and lightning storms perhaps, and suddenly, you know, I walk out into this urban jungle and it starts to rain within minutes and we get lightning. And I actually saw quite a few lightnings right in the sky, and for me that's rare to see. Not only because, you know, it rarely happens here, it's also rare that I take that moment to stand for. Some of them were like fractions of a second. It's like almost if you blinked you may have missed it because they were so brief and yet so rare. Yeah, it makes me truly grateful for being able to walk through this urban wilderness. So, yeah, thank you for joining me on this podcast that I'm recording tonight. You know, I've come to the understanding through many different sources that things are going to change eventually, inevitably. And these changes will be considerable for many people. And I've learned this through differing teachers and, you know, I guess you could say even my own channels as such, and all of the channels that I watch and the books that I read and the mentors that I have known, whether I've departed or, you know, valuing what I did learn through discernment from them. And it's almost as if this is something that is happening and our world is going to forever change. And that though the mass majority are resistant to change because change means doing things outside of the routine. And that's a pretty scary idea, I guess, when you're in a hardcore routine of everything that you do, how you do it, when you do it, and you know you have more of those reliances to be within that routine, whatever that routine is. And that change requires essentially to start breaking those routines. And being in the moment of now almost feels as if it's you accept there doesn't need to be a routine. Wouldn't that be interesting, a world to decide that whatever routine you had or have, that you could simply decide that you no longer wanted to have that routine and it be okay? See, I often find myself kind of expressing the idea that the reason why I make these videos is so that I can focus my attention on the positive outcomes that could perhaps be possible. And I feel that as we all focus our attention on the things that could be possible, that we have a better chance of making that optimal or beneficial for all possibility possible. It's a lot of possibilities, huh? But don't worry, this is not a possibilities podcast as well. That's a separate thing. Although this is, adding to that what if. So yeah, as I was saying, so that things are going to change, and that change is going to bring about, more responsibility, more accountability, more possibility. There it goes, getting on that word again. You can almost have it. Possibilities Podcast, proud sponsor of Shone's Thoughts. Using a brand to advertise myself, using one brand to advertise the other self. But back to the idea that we could be changing and on the verge of that change, and perhaps that is what we are seeing out there in the world right now, is the chaos that it's ensuing because of all there is happening out there. Sorry, that pause was because I realized that yesterday I did a video and I did it on a high resolution, and I used up, okay, well, why does any of that matter? I'm telling you the whole story, but it doesn't really matter. As long as I have audio going forward, like record time, then it's all good. I truly do wish for a world where all trains are underground. Like, that just be the better way of doing it. All trains underground, all highways underground. Like, just imagine that, a world where the highways and the train systems, they go underground or they go below ground, like below ground level. And so therefore we wouldn't have to be disturbed by the frequencies of all those trains. And we as a community, if that serves us better for beautification and, noise pollution and such, then wouldn't that be a way that we could all get together and decide that that's the way it's going to be, and so therefore work towards that being the way, allocating enough labor resources to putting those major highways and trains below ground? Yeah, maybe that's what this whole podcast today is all about. It's about presenting that idea, because I had that idea that we could use things underground, and therefore it's better for the weather, but it's also better for the area around it. You don't have that big thing going through blocking things. You don't have the train rumbling overhead. You don't have, a train flying by you and your house shaking, or people looking in your window. You don't have that. You don't have to be out on your patio and have all of that noise. You don't have to live beside major highways and have that noise pollution. Speak of noise pollution. Anyways. Yeah, I'd rather prefer that it's going to change and work towards that change, focusing my attention on the possible changes. That's why the IFORSEE series for me is one of my most passionate projects that I was working on, because I loved spending my time creating those things, being immersed within the creation of all of the images, adding, frequencies of love and higher vibration, adding that through words into what the images and how the images were composed. Like, I use my words to create those images, infusing them with a higher vibration, and then putting that into the high vibrational script of how the world could be. And I really do want to get back to making those. Getting back into the longer creations is something that I really, really do want to do. because I know the value that they add to the frequency when you're watching them. If you imagine everything that you do in your life, every action you take, you can kind of imagine that every beneficial action will have a vibration or a frequency added to your field, and every, low vibrational action will take away. And I've come to understand that when we do higher vibrational things, when we love, and love's not sex, love is, love. And when we forgive, and when we release and let go, when we laugh and share compassion, when we dance with joy and create in harmony with Source, that those actions are the ones that add to our beingness, perhaps you can kind of look at it as our energetic field. And so when we do the opposite, when we lie, cheat, steal, deception, anger, frustration, hostility, revenge, gossip, when we do those lower vibrations, it pulls away and takes from us. And I think that there's some certain things that you can do in order to add positive vibration to yourself. Like there's certain books you can read that seem to have a higher frequency, and most people know one of them. Not to say that I believe that all the things that are in there are truth. I believe there to be some. Oh, that was so cool. Just as I said, I believe that there is some falsity. This giant bolt of lightning shot down several blocks away from me. But I totally believe there to be a lot of truth in that book. But there's other, auditorial and pictorial, maybe like reading experiences that can also add to your vibrational field. And I feel that a little itty bitty bit of it is infused in each one of my IFORSEE videos, that just by viewing it perhaps somehow, it's able to add to your frequency. It's something that you can do passively to add to your frequency. I don't know. I just got that idea while I was creating it, that's kind of like what its usage were. And I really do want to get back to that, but in order to get back to that, I have to start, funding the hosting of my podcasts, which requires people to jump in and say yes, I guess, to the Patreon. Rather than me saying, come on over, rather me to say yes to it. Because I want to continue funding the podcasts that I do, and they were beginning to be put on Apple, Spotify, Boom Player, Amazon. Anyways, there are lots of different places. But due to the fact that they need me to pay the whole $450 up front for a year for hosting of that podcast, I really want to get that on there. And it's not necessarily about, making a ton of money. It's more